Now let's take a look at the last big data type, which is dates. And one little thing that's kind of worth highlighting real quick is, of course, there's a lot of other types of data and so forth that you could be playing around with and so forth. We're looking kind of for the big ones here.
Yeah.
So that's why we went numbers. That's why, of course, we went strings. And that's now why we're going with dates. And so let's kick into it. That's sort of the best way, I think, to get in and do it. So, fact of the matter is that we spend an awful lot of time dealing with dates, dealing with deadlines, dealing with schedules. In fact, while we were, eating, I was having to deal with a little fire. I have to have something done by the end of today. So you've got all of those different things. So you're frequently trying to calculate the number of days before a particular event, or be able to maybe highlight something before or after it's completed. So based on a project being due, is it late or is it on track? If I'm looking to book an appointment 2 weeks from now, so maybe like my contacts,
a follow-up appointment with the doctor or something.
Exactly.
Sure.
Yeah, my contacts are 30 days. So I have to remember to pull them out after 30 days. So how do I go in and do something like that? Well, the way that we deal with all of that is by working with dates and times. And one great thing about Python, which is true across almost every language, is that it has the ability to understand and give you the ability to manipulate then a date.
Yep.
So let's say, for example, that, and this is kind of a classic example, that I want to figure out the number of days until my birthday. Now, in order for me to do this, the first thing that I'm going to need to know is what is today's date. And you'll notice that we can go in and pull that in by utilizing the date time class. Okay. Well, there's a lot that's going on here.
Yeah.
So one of the biggest questions that's come through the chat window is, can we create blank apps with Python? Can we create web apps? Can we create Windows apps? Can we? And the answer to all of those questions is 100% yes. You can create all of those. But typically, what all of those are going to require is some form of a library. So I'm going to need a library, so that way I can more easily make the web calls. I'm going to need a library so I can go off and communicate with a database. Well, we're going to need something, some component to be able to work with dates.
I'm just going to throw in one other library I just want to mention, because there was a couple of questions that actually came up on the chat window that were talking about things like dealing with other languages and currency symbols from other languages. You'll find a library out there, a module which contains functionality that help you deal with what we call localization. There's different locales called locale, L-O-C-A-L-E. So for those of you who are asking about how do I handle Danish characters, how do I show the euro symbol or things like that, there's a locale library for that.
Yep, absolutely. Actually, you can just draw it on the screen.
Oh yeah, that doesn't work so well inside Visual Studio.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I tried.
Even Visual Studio has its limitations. It doesn't have touch input for writing your code yet.
Shucks. That'll be the next version.
Yes.
Okay. In any event, so in order to incorporate that level of functionality, what we're going to need is an import statement. And import, in a nutshell, simply means take something and make it available. So whatever it is that it happens to be, we're going to take that, we're going to make that available. Now, once we make that available, what you're going to notice is that we immediately have access to then date time. So in fact, here, I think sort of the best thing to do is actually get in and do it. So
yeah, especially something like this. This is
exactly.
You want to see, and it is such a common situation that you just need today's date. So you can figure out how many days from now to another date, or it's just a display. How many times do you see a report or something, or you print someone an email that confirms, hey, you ordered the tickets and you ordered them on this date. We constantly need today's date. It comes up all the time.
Exactly, yeah. So let's take a look at my code here. I'm just going to say today, which is spelled like that.
You sure you had some caffeine? Maybe you should have had some caffeine.
Yeah, no kidding. Today equals, I'm going to say date time, date, oh. You're going to notice, a little error message here. It tells me right there, no completions.
So it's basically saying something, I'm confused.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it doesn't know what date time is.
IntelliSense, in this case, is actually telling you, I can't find it.
Exactly, yep. And so this is kind of a very quick way to see, oh, wait a minute. And if you ever see something like that, where you type something out, you hit a dot, you're expecting IntelliSense, and you're getting like no completions, that's frequently an indication that you forgot an import. So now I'm just going to say import, and you'll notice that this will show me all of the classes that are available to me inside of Python. So I'm going to go ahead and say import, and I love anti-gravity. I know it's not really going to be, true anti-gravity, but wouldn't it be nice if we could start working with it? Anyway, all right, I digress. So let's go ahead and say import date time, and now you're going to notice the moment I do that, a lot of different things light up. And one big thing to keep in mind as you're typing something out inside of Visual Studio, if you see the color change, there's a reason for that. That what Visual Studio is trying to do is tell you that this is a keyword. So you're going to notice that today is, in that case, the little bit of teal.
I guess it is sort of a tealish blue. Yeah, it would be reasonable, yeah.
Periwinkle? Yeah. Sure. But whatever that color is, what this is trying to indicate to me is this is, at this moment, a reserved word or a special word, or this word means something. And anytime that you have a word that means something else inside of Python, you're not going to be able to use that as a variable name.
That is true, yes.
Yep.
So that's we didn't mention that in the rules when we talked about variables, but no, you cannot use a reserved word as a variable. You can't use print as a variable name.
Exactly.
You can't use input as a variable name because those have other meanings to Python. So
Yep.
today, and it's funny because today is just such a good example because it's the kind of thing you logically go, hey, I need a place to store today's date. Why not call it today? Unfortunately, not an option. Just have to come up with something slightly different.
How about, let's go with...
Usually you lose current date.
Now, or current date.
I've seen now as a reserved word in some systems as well.
Yeah.
So I like current date. That's mine, but find your own. I think you're okay, So.
Why are you still giving me that turquoise? It shouldn't be giving me that turquoise.
You know what? They recently posted an update. Actually, I had somebody pop up a question on the Q&A saying, hey, my colors aren't matching what you have on the slide.
Yeah, and that...
There was literally a release 2 weeks ago to the Python tools for Visual Studio. And so we're running with that. So it's possible there may be a couple little small quirks in it.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't stress over it. I said it was literally an update like a week and a half ago. So we're still getting used to the update. We only saw it a week and a half ago.
Exactly. All right. So in any event, so we'll go with current date. And then I'm just going to say date, and then we'll say today. And that will give me today. So I'm going to go ahead and one of the big questions that's come around is, when do I need the parentheses? And there's a couple of different ways that you can tell, but one of the easiest is these icons right here. So that little blue box that you see right there, what that's trying to indicate to me is a method, function.
A function. We talked about functions like print and input, these things that go do something for you.
Exactly. So that's going to need parentheses. So when you see a box, method, function, parentheses, and then on the blue ones, that's going to be some form of a property.
So those don't require the parentheses.
Those won't need it. Exactly.
Oh, by the way, when you zoom out, the color fixed itself now, by the way. So it must have been just somehow a screen refresh with that update. So.
Yeah, that's sort of weird. Okay.
I think we just say new version of the tool.
Yeah.
Obviously, the colors don't refresh as quickly as they should.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I'm not losing my mind.
You're not losing your
mind. All
mind.
right.
It's all good.
So yeah, so we'll go with current date today, and then we'll just go ahead and print that out. So I'm just going to say print current date, just like that. And now let's go ahead and hit start. And sure enough, it prints out today's date as 2014-9-23. Perfect. Okay. So now what you're seeing here is how we can go off and grab today's date and how we can start working with dates and times. All right, let me get back to my slides here. Give this a second. All right. Now, we've already got it, the ability to store that into a variable, and you can kind of see that right there. There we go. And again, we see the output. We can see when the slide was created. So that was created on July 20th.
Yeah, you can see when I was creating my deck, yeah.
Absolutely. And then we've got our little demo slide.
Right.
Now, one of the biggest things that we're going to be looking to do when we look for a display or when we look to do calculations is to go grab the different components, the different parts of the day. And so you're going to notice that there's a whole set of different properties that are available on a date. Now, I've thrown around this word properties a couple of times. Let me go ahead and define this real quick. A property is, in a nutshell, an adjective. So whenever we're talking about an object, the way that I always like to try and describe things is picture a real-world object. So here, let me hold up my little water bottle here. So you'll notice that I've got my little water bottle here, and my water bottle has a color, something that I could use to describe my water bottle. And so the color here happens to be blue. So property or adjective, color, the value would be blue. So in this particular case, coming back to the slide there, what you're going to notice is that I've got year, I've got month, and I've got day. Those are properties. Those are all different components or different adjectives, different ways that I could describe today's date. So I could give you the year, which is a part of that. I could give you the month, which is a part of that. I could give you the day, which is a part of that. And all of those are going to describe different pieces of information or different adjectives about that date object, in this case, the current date. Unlike
the functions. Functions are going off and doing something. These are just giving you information.
Exactly.
About that item or about that thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. That's exactly it. So, and really, if I was going to go one step further, and I'm not going to dig too deeply into this, but when it comes to methods, I always like to call them verbs because those are the actions. So adjectives, give me something. Verbs, do something.
I like it. So functions and methods are like verbs, whereas properties are the adjectives. I like that.
Yeah.
That's a nice way of thinking of it.
I think so. I think so. Okay. So let's go in then and take a look at how we can access all of this. So let me fire up Visual Studio. And I'm just going to kind of keep on keeping on here. And let's just say print, and we'll say current date. And you'll notice again,
every now and then.
It's not going to give me my completions. That's all right. I'm just going to say month, and I'm going to say print and current date. And I'm going to say year, like that. And if I run this, it's working. Yeah. So, so we've got that, even though it's just not giving me
the problem is Python doesn't know until you're executing the code that current date contains a date value. So we have that situation where Python has a variable, current date, which we know is going to contain a date, but there's no way when you're writing the code for Python to detect that's going to be a date value. It's only after you've executed the code it gets a date, and that's why you're not seeing IntelliSense pop up for that.
Yeah.
So if you initialize it to a date value somehow, you could trick it into it, but that unfortunately is one of the things about dates.
And it's sort of true with Python in general. You see this actually in other languages. That Python, some people will refer to this as weakly typed. There's weakly typed and strongly typed. So when you declare a variable will always have a type, a string, a number, a date.
Yeah, it forces you. When you create a variable in some programming languages with strongly typed, it says when you make a variable, you tell me what data type is going to be in there, and don't mess with it. It can only have that data type.
Exactly. But with a weakly typed, which is like JavaScript or Python, you can actually have a variable and you don't have to tell it up front, this is what it's going to be, which means that I could actually take a number, throw it into it, and it would go, oh, okay, cool, I'm a number, I'm a number, I'm a number. And then you could, 3 lines later, throw a string into it, and it would go, oh, okay, I'm a string, I'm a string, I'm a string. And
it's great it's forgiving, it's flexible, but it gives side effects like, oh, the IntelliSense doesn't know what you're putting a date in there, so it can't give you the pop-up list of date functions, because for all it knows, you're going to want string functions.
Exactly.
So, like I said, pros and cons, it is what it is.
Yep.
We'll let you move on.
Okay.
So that just explains why you don't have the IntelliSense.
Exactly. Yep. Okay.